I am headed into my meeting with the superintendent, as the meeting was switched up yesterday and it was only posted on the school website yesterday morning, according to the secretary of the superintendent. And me and one other parent were here waiting at 6 o'clock and informed that it wasn't going to be until 7 o'clock and that the budget meeting would be first and then the meeting would follow. I had to pick my son up from practice at 7 o'clock, so by the time I got back up here at 7:27, everything was done and everybody was gone. So none of these questions that I'm about to ask got addressed last night at the board meeting with everybody present. Hi there. How are you?
Good. He'll be with you in a second. He's going to come in a meeting, but have a seat over there and you're here.
Perfect, thank you. Yes, that's him. I didn't hear what you said.
Yes, that was it. Casey, he'll be right with you.
Okay, thank you. With these temperatures, you can't take the snowmen down. But we love to see flowers this time of the year.
Right. doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, come on in. Casey, how are you?
Good.
You are?
Casey's mother, Shireen.
Hi, Shereen, how are you?
Pretty good, how are you?
Good. Took your first sunny day in like 3 weeks and you wanted to come here?
Yes.
Not really,
Unfortunately,
but-
no, I didn't want to, but
Yeah, that's fair.
choices weren't, I would have preferred last night when I was ready for it, but I am
What's up?
recording the meeting.
Oh, okay, how come?
So she can refer back to it. So I can use it whenever I need to use it. Refer back to it, share it with other people that are not comfortable with coming to meetings or can't make it to meetings. I am bound and determined to be heard. And to understand. And to understand all of this. And it's no easy task for somebody to educate themselves on the school system as a whole, the Board of Education and its workings, the administration and its workings. So I'm going to start by saying I am really struggling to understand how we've gotten so far off the beaten path of school being about our children, but becoming way more about politics and money than I ever imagined. Let me begin by informing the board. This is what I had prepared for last night in the board. If they are not aware already, I have been emailing several questions to the superintendent since last year when the school was telling everyone that they wanted community involvement about reopening plans. I set up a meeting with the superintendent and a few other mothers. I was very concerned with virtual learning and its negative effects, masking my own children, and being persistent about no virtual learning. I was made to leave due to another parent having the meeting on live Facebook, and none of those things were taken into consideration on our reopening. They were, but they were governed, so it was not able to be, which I understand, I just don't agree with. I also had many other questions about the budget, employee titles, and other information to try to educate myself on how all of this works. I feel like we need more community involvement. We have none. And that's very disheartening to me, and I would like to see more, and I'm going to do what I can to try to get more. Some questions that were not answered were, what, if anything, did we save from the shutdown last year? And I asked that at last month's meeting during public comments, and I was told it was unavailable at the time. So I know that we had a proposed budget for last year, and then at the end of the year we have a final budget, correct? Is that how it goes? We propose a budget, we get through the school year, and then there's a budget that was used, right?
Yep.
I'm trying to understand how last year's proposed budget for something that we had no idea was going to happen, we ended up spending the exact same dollar amount by the end of the year with no savings.
Okay.
I asked what the capacity is of both the elementary and the high school buildings. I asked why we are requiring students to wear masks while outside on the playground, because there are many children who go to the playground after school hours and use it as it should be used to play and interact. So why are we doing so many contradicting things when it comes to taking precautions? Taking temperatures, washing hands, and even using sanitizer are all preventable measures that do not infringe on anyone's rights or civil liberties, and our public schools should not be doing that to our children. Lastly, what is the difference between contractual earnings and regular pay on the employee earnings I FOIL requested last year? It was emailed to me that it was not understood what I was asking. Now, when I FOIL requested, I got a list of employees, and then next to that it said either contractual earnings, regular pay, daily pay. So I'm trying to understand I now know that the contractual earnings are people that are under contracts through the union, I assume. Is that right?
We have contractual employees, yes.
So regular pay employees and daily pay employees aren't contracted, correct?
I want to do some research on what document was that you were referring to.
She can show you.
I FOIL requested.
Yeah, okay. So let me get all your questions down, Casey, because again, I want to make sure that we,
Well, these are questions that she's asked already, and she asked some in front of the board, and they weren't even in the minutes of what the board posted.
The only question I asked that went on the minutes for last month's meeting was about the masks, about, I believe that's what it was. I just looked at it this morning because I just found out this morning how to find the meetings on the website. And I also learned that the Board of Education votes on the meetings that get posted. So we have the meeting and then the board votes
On what they share.
they share with the public. Is that how that works?
they're approving the minutes from the prior meeting.
Right. But they're obviously not
Sharing everything.
sharing everything because I asked several questions at that meeting and only one of them was shared with the public. Some new questions that I have are, why hasn't there been any communications to parents regarding the issue with the razor blades that were being handed out at the building amongst our children? Some parents like myself would like the opportunity to speak to their children about mental health and harming themselves or others. And I am so thankful that I was informed by someone outside the school so that I could have this very important conversation with my child. How many children are still in possession and their parents don't know anything about this? Every parent of a student should have been notified to be able to make a choice to talk to them. I am really not sure how it was handled because it's been kept such a secret. Do we currently have 3 guidance counselors and 2 psychologists? Are they just in the high school or are they school central wise?
What was the question again?
Do we currently have 3 guidance counselors and 2 psychologists just in the high school, or are they central school district
There's 2
wide?
at the high school, 2 counselors at the high school.
2 guidance counselors, 2 psychologists as well?
No.
Just
None? No
Oh,
psychologist?
there's one.
one
Oh.
psychologist?
Dr. Gordon?
So is there one here?
Yeah.
So we have 2 psychologists school-wide, 2 guidance counselors in the high school. Do we have guidance counselors in the elementary?
2 and 3 counselors, 2 psychologists. Okay.
Do we have any guidance counselors in the elementary?
There's a counselor, yes.
Just one?
Yep.
Okay.
So there's 3 total.
Right, so it's central school-wide, along with a conduct coordinator. So how does that happen? And the school not only did nothing to inform me personally when my child is in school with the said student, this all happened with our schools at half capacity and nobody noticed this child struggling and needing attention. That's very concerning. And I'm very thankful that I outsource my child's psychological needs or mental needs because it's not noticed in schools and it's not attended to in schools like it should be because the school is very well informed about my child's issues and I feel others as well and they don't do very much about it. Another issue I have is vape pens. And I have not contacted the principal on this issue as I don't feel as though I'm taken seriously. In the last question I personally asked her, she told me it was above her pay grade, which, let me remind you, is well over $100,000 a year. She had no desire to help me.
And how is that okay for the principal, whom you're supposed to be able to go to? I mean, I'm really beginning to wonder if it's not time for her to think about a new career if she's not interested in helping or at least giving
Sound advice, direction.
or just saying, geez, let me check into that and I'll get back to you, instead of saying that's above my pay grade. How is that even acceptable from a principal?
That was that sounds like, is that an unresolved issue for you from last summer?
Yes.
It was when I was deciphering between homeschooling
Was it
my child
A
and
year ago, right? Wasn't it like?
probably,
It was-
yeah, when school shut
Yeah.
down,
When school
was
was-
trying
yeah.
to start back up.
Yeah.
No, when we started back up, because I believe I was getting the Chromebook when it happened. And there was other people in the lobby with me. And as far as it being unresolved, yeah, I guess it is unresolved because,
You're still not comfortable going to her.
yeah, I have no desire to go to her. I have no desire to speak to her. She was my principal. She didn't do much for me when I was in high school, and I feel like she still treats me the same exact way that she did when I was in high school. And I am a full-grown adult with 3 children who I'm very concerned about. And I needed a little bit of guidance on my options to homeschool,
Well, and, Casey,
which I've now learned all on my own.
that's why, again, my door is always open to you, and I've always responded to.
For the most part, you've
your-
responded.
Your emails. Again, let's continue on with,
My child is now thankfully doing a little bit better in school, and I am thankful for that.
good,
But it's only due to my persistence
yeah,
with every one of his teachers.
okay.
I have come to the conclusion with several other parents that these vape pens are being passed around in school. And again, how does that happen with all of the supervision, i.e. teachers' assistants, aides, cameras, etc.? And not for nothing, this is another thing being pushed to the wayside that is also completely contradicting to the guidelines having to be followed to prevent COVID. They are passing around vape pens. How sanitary is that? I had a teacher tell me that my student was just failing at the end of the 3rd quarter for not doing virtual work. Now, I've witnessed with my own eyes on virtual days, teachers take attendance and they let them go work on work. Tell them if you have things to work on, go work on them. How many of those kids do you think are actually doing it? Because mine wasn't, and he was going in school 5 days a week and in the classroom with his virtual teacher, and his teacher's telling me that he was telling him to get it done and he just never did. Well, at what point do you decide that you need to contact the parent that had a meeting right in the beginning of school to let all of the teachers know that he will slack when he's given the room to slack? He's a teenager, as well as so many of these other ones are. And that I needed to be contacted so that I could stay on top of him as well. And then that didn't happen. And he failed his technology class for the 3rd quarter. That is completely unacceptable over virtual work. I'm glad to hear, are we doing anything? My question was, are we doing anything different for ballots for budget voting this year? And I'm glad to hear that it's going to be in person. Because last year's absentee ballots that didn't only got sent out to people that voted within the last 3 years shouldn't even been counted as a vote, in my own opinion, because not enough people had the opportunity. And we had an increase on our levy last year, and this year we don't, and everybody's going to be able to vote. Another issue that hasn't been resolved that I still have questions about is how do we have positions that are titled teaching assistant, but when receiving an email from this employee, there's a title at the bottom which says conduct coordinator.
And this has been a question she's asked previously that never got answered, really.
And the only thing that you could tell me is that, quote, "In each of our schools, we have individuals who provide additional duties associated with this job title, i.e. conduct coordinator. The responsibilities include, among other things, helping students to engage positively in the school community and avoid larger discipline issues that would rise to a level involving the principal." I feel as though all teachers' assistants are doing these same extra duties without the extra pay or job title. And I must question this because this position is held by Christy McPhee, and she attended a meeting with myself, my husband, and Miss Larrabee last year for a discipline issue. So how is she helping to resolve things before they get to the principal? And I received an email from her with conduct coordinator at the bottom this year regarding a mask issue with my student. So why is she handling conduct when we have a principal? And I would like to know what qualifications that she has to handle administrative business like that. Lastly, what is happening to parent-teacher communication? I have personally had to be very persistent to keep on top of my students' grades and progress. So when I received my student's report card, which comes almost 2 weeks after grades are out, and he's failing shop class, this throws up some red flags. And I think to myself, I had a meeting with all of his teachers in the beginning of the year to discuss my child and how he will slack off when allowed. I asked them all to reach out to me if he was falling behind, slacking, or anything else. I have only had an issue with 2 of his teachers. Miss Gray being one of them, with a failing report card grade in the second quarter when assignments were submitted before the deadline but not averaged in, and then Mr. Harris with the third quarter failing grade for shop class. There was no reason for him not to reach out to me after asking my child to get it done and not getting any results. He should not have been let to fail this class. And I feel like there's just no more open communication between parents in the school. So I don't know where to go from here. I've been trying to get my voice heard at the meetings. I feel like it's not heard. I feel like the way that it was changed yesterday, during the day, it was posted on the website. That's what I was told.
It had been posted for quite a while in the public notice. The budget hearing's always at 7 o'clock.
Right, but the meeting was supposed to be at 6. That was
7 o'clock. It's always at 7 o'clock, the budget hearing.
the budget hearing. The
The
regular meeting is
regular
always
board meeting,
scheduled for 6 o'clock on the first
Tuesday. Or
Wednesday of every month.
Not that meeting, though. That meeting's always at 7 o'clock. It's very well publicized and posted.
Where else is it publicized?
There's a public notice that goes out. It's been out for a long time. There was a reminder that went out yesterday that was posted on the website, but that wasn't the first time. All of that is, there's legal requirements in terms of how those meetings are posted and when it's posted.
No, I understand. I read it all last night.
Yeah. I mean, so I apologize for the inconvenience, but
Well, it's very inconvenient because it was definitely checked the night before by
Another
Katie
parent.
Webb, who also attends every meeting.
yeah, she was there last night.
Yeah, because she came at 6 o'clock when I was sitting in the parking lot, and I informed her that it wasn't going to be till 7.
Oh, okay.
It's the only way she knew because she had checked it the night before,
And there was nothing there.
and there was nothing there that she saw.
Oh, okay. No, the budget calendar that goes out had it posted at 7 o'clock. It's been in the newspaper for the last several weeks. You know, there's requirements that we have to fulfill to be able to.
Well, and when Miss Smith told me that, I had to pick my child up from a 7 o'clock baseball practice. So by the time I got back here at 7:27, everybody was gone and the meeting was over. The budget meeting and the regular meeting were both started and finished by 7:27. Everyone I've been to has been at least an hour, so I was a little bit confused.
I was still here till 8:30. We still had, business and executive session. What can I do to help, Casey? Because,
You can help me by getting the
I guess
community involved.
that's our question to you, is
Right.
what you can do, what can you do to help the situations at hand? The things that she's brought forth, the questions.
I mean, I have questions about the budget. I had questions last year about the budget. I want to understand how we need another $1 million this school year. I don't understand for what. I mean, I see that you have it in here. You have it for instruction, administration, and improvements. I mean, I can see it, but where does it really go? Because how did we not save anything on any fuel last year, any bus driving, pay? I mean,
There were,
no savings last year.
Well, no, there were savings, but there were also additional costs that we had to incur. So if you remember, thinking about transportation in and of itself, we did continue to run buses and
Once a
deliver
day.
meals and keep people employed. That was one of the executive orders from the governor, was to not lay off your workforce and to keep people working. So we did that by delivering materials, delivering Chromebooks, delivering meals, packaging meals, doing all of those things. So, though be it there was a reduction in terms of what those costs were, it wasn't like there was a zero cost. We still had to, per the governor's order back in, it was March 16th when the schools first closed, and subsequent to that, probably around early May, there was an executive order that said keep your workforce whole, otherwise you will lose funding for the following year. So the idea was that even though New York was on pause, which politically we may or may not agree with it, the decision in hindsight is 2020, but we had a requirement to follow those orders, and that's what we had to do. So
So the money is more important.
what do you mean?
No, they did what they
Keeping the
had.
funding.
They did what they had to do. They kept people working, and of course they saved some money, because I'm sure they didn't keep everybody working at the total hours that they were
Well,
before.
the contractual earners are paid their regular pay.
But that's mainly teachers
Right.
who did work.
So the way that the school budget would work is similar to how you might maybe budget for your home, right? You have a certain pool of money, and from month to month, you get close to spending everything that you have, but you may be rolling over a little bit until the following month. And then you can reconcile that by putting some into a savings account. So our budget has some flexibility to be able to respond to what the needs are at any given time. So we have emergencies here that require our attention as well. Sometimes leaks in roofs where you have to get contractors, or a generator that may need to be serviced because it didn't fire up, or plumbing issues that were unexpected, and you have to get Roto-Rooter to come and to handle those things. So the budget is never built to a specific dollar amount. It's budgeted to those allocations. But at the end of the year, and this is what I was explaining at that the last time that you had the question that was related to the budget, was that at the end of our year, our fiscal year runs from January 1 until June 30th, right? So this year, we are still operating in the 2020-2021 budget. The budget that is being approved, or when you asked the question, it was the budget that was being proposed, was actually the budget that starts
September or July.
July 1
Mm-hmm.
for the following year,
Mm-hmm.
right? So at the end of the fiscal year, we will go through all of the accounts and then roll the money into what is considered to be
General
the
funds.
general fund, saving account, whatever you wanna call it,
Mhm.
and reallocate it for, other expenses. In some cases, we overspend in some areas, and there's certain, accounting principles that you have to follow through the comptroller's office to make sure that, there's a lot of oversight involved in how schools operate and how that money is allocated and moved around. We can't just,
And I do understand that to a certain extent, but I would never compare running this
You may
school to my
understand that.
household because there's no state, federal funding involved in my household.
100%.
I mean, I would never use that comparison,
Got the
school to
stimulus,
home.
didn't ya?
Yes, I did, baby. Actually, you're right. I can't say that, I guess.
Well, that was good timing for that, Mom. I only say it because, there's some relevance to the fact that, you don't want to you never wanna overspend what you have, but you also, you wanna be frugal in how you allocate. So you save money for, rainy days, and you also budget your money in a certain way to make sure that at the end of the month, you're not overspending or spending right to the dollar.
So do you know what Miss McPhee, has other than a high school diploma for her teaching assistant title? No, for the teacher's aide title, because the conduct coordinator is just like an extra, I don't even know, just another name for the
I
extra
had
duties
sent
that
you
she,
I thought that I had sent you the requirements for the teaching assistant.
yes, it's just a
That's all-
diploma.
That's all New York State, that's all through the New York State
So-
teaching certification.
So do,
There are different certifications for every position that we have, and we have to follow those, so.
well, she's the highest paid teacher's aide that we have, is she not?
Well, there's a difference between a teacher aide and a teaching assistant,
Uh-huh,
okay, and those qualifications are different.
right. So
So.
she's a teacher's aide.
No, I would like, if we can, Casey, I'd rather keep it not about individual employees. It's not really appropriate for me to talk individually about.
Well, I'm concerned with this.
Well, because we're having a hard time understanding, is she a conduct coordinator or is she a teacher's, what is her title? Because there's a little
Teachers,
bit.
it's,
We have, again, without talking about any individual, okay?
Correct.
Because here's one of the concerns that I have. I have a whole bunch of questions, and Casey, I've always given you time, and I've always wanted to provide you with, the kind of answers that you want. The last time you were here.
well, I'm having a hard time understanding why I can't question something that's in our budget.
No, I just wanna be.
And that's what I'm doing.
No, I understand, I wanna be fair to you, okay, cause I always have been, and I'm just asking that you be fair with me as well. The last time that we met, you recorded the conversation and then posted it on the internet, and I'm not really interested.
I posted it on the internet where?
I'm not really interested in.
Where did I post it on the internet?
Facebook.
It was on Facebook?
The conversation you had with her or with the group?
I am not interested in having a conversation that is recorded and posted on social
It's
media.
not gonna be posted anywhere.
So-
That's not the purpose of
This
it.
is an audio recording, right? This is what I used at our last meeting that we had with a group of other mothers, right? So you're telling me that I posted an audio recording on
No,
the internet?
Listen, I'm not trying to be combative at all.
No, but that's what you just told me that I did, and I didn't do such a thing. Nothing like that. There was another mother who was Facebook Living the meeting. Nothing to do with me. I had my personal audio recorder. That was it. So please don't accuse me of things that I did not do.
So how can I help you today?
Okay, help us understand first by explaining, do you have a conduct coordinator?
We have positions that are titled teaching assistants.
None that are titled conduct
We have
coordinator.
teaching assistants.
So, I guess my question is who is this person that signs it, conduct coordinator?
Like I explained to you in your email, Casey, we have.
Well, who is that
title-
person?
we have-
This is a title underneath her name. That doesn't say teacher's assistant.
Okay, let him finish.
I wanna help you.
And we'd love to have your help.
Then you have to be willing to listen to the answer.
Okay, go ahead.
We have positions that are teaching assistants.
Okay,
Those are the appointments that we make.
okay,
Locally, we have people who, in their teaching assistant role, do a variety of other roles to support the education.
okay, I
mission.
understand that.
Some may be assigned to the attendance office, some may be assigned to support remote learning, some may be assigned to support interventions and discipline.
Okay,
So we have, the conduct coordinator is a local title for someone who does the early interventions and assist students with minor bus issues, things like that. Major discipline problems that would require any kind of disciplinary action, I agree with you. That's a principal, that's an administrative responsibility.
So then that doesn't answer my question as to why the conduct coordinator was involved with my meeting with the principal last year.
Well, so I can go back and ask about that, okay? But what I want to be able to do is help you going forward. So how do we?
So why did the conduct coordinator call me about the mask issue on the bus?
Because the mask issue would be not anything that's going to require, it's an effort to try and kind of resolve the issue at the lowest level. But that's not going to respond with discipline and things of that nature, right? It's an
but
intervention.
isn't that what all the teachers' assistants or teachers' aides, or I don't know really what the difference is.
The
but
certifications, the only difference.
anybody involved in the school, I guess, teachers' aide, teacher assistants, teachers, isn't that their goal also? Is to prevent things from escalating to go to the principal? I mean, if the teacher sees you misbehaving, he tries to say to you, geez, you know, you need to relax, calm down, or you're going to go to the principal. So that's kind of everybody's job as a whole in a school.
You know, you could say that, but it would be the same as saying that the music teacher is responsible for doing PE because they're a teacher, right?
No, that's not it. This is
This is an individual who helps with. There's individuals in both of our schools.
Does she have her own
that-
office?
There's individuals in our schools that, again, Casey, if you're asking about
An
the
individual.
operations of our school and titles, I'm very comfortable having that conversation. This feels personal to me.
absolutely is not personal.
Well,
It's not personal at all. I don't even know this woman personally.
Well,
Does she have her own office?
I'm not talking about any.
It's just
specific individual.
frustrating that somebody that has just has the same education as anybody else.
Can get such a position.
Right. That seems to be, they have more power than your regular teacher assistant, or more control, or more say, or
And I guess that's what makes it personal, I guess, because I personally found out that her husband works on the Board of Education. So I guess you could consider it a personal issue, but it's not personal. It's conflict of interest, I find, that I'm trying to figure out if it's a conflict of interest. And now that I read things, it all depends on who votes and how it's voted. And there's a lot of loopholes to vote on an increase.
but it's not, it could be anybody. It's not, and I guess the thing is that it's not personal per se personal towards,
Me to her.
right. I mean, like she said, she doesn't even know her.
This is a personal agenda for me to try to understand how.
I'm not talking about any one individual. Okay, so that's not a conversation.
Okay, so let's,
That's not a conversation I'm interested in,
Okay.
in having, so.
all right, so let's continue on.
Are we gonna go back to 5 days a week at all?
Yes, God, oh, can we please talk about, teaching and learning and kids and.
Okay, so let's talk
getting
about
back to school?
the razor blade incident.
Sure.
As Casey said, there was no communication to any parent about any of it. How is that okay?
Or what was there? Because
Right.
we weren't contacted, so we don't know.
There are confidentiality things that we need to preserve.
You can do that. Why can't you do that in letting people know that there was an issue,
The police were involved in that matter.
as they should have been,
was
and it
brought-
should have been
Let him
handled by the
speak.
principal.
It was brought to our attention. The police were involved. There was an investigation, and it was handled as in what I feel to be an appropriate manner.
The whole thing? Do you
Yeah.
feel that the way that the principal handled it was an appropriate matter?
Again, you're getting into,
No, that's getting into
The way that she handled it.
okay.
the way she handles situations.
I
and
understand.
it's another example of her.
And you're entitled to your opinion.
Well, it's not just an opinion, it's
No,
kind
these
of a
are-
fact when,
It's not handled properly by
right.
her.
Well, and again, you are entitled to your opinion as to how you think that things are handled rightly or wrongly.
Well,
What
by-
I'd like to be
When-
able, what I'd like to be able to do is to help. you-
Okay, so because of the way that two situations have been handled, you don't think that that's important, and how Casey feels about addressing her to handle any other situations?
I feel that Casey is important enough that every time she has called or sent an email,
To you,
I have taken time
to you,
to
correct.
respond. And I want to understand your concerns.
But my student's principal has not.
So, okay.
Right from the
Thank you.
beginning, so
Well,
it's
thank
made
you.
it difficult for me to want to reach out to her.
And I appreciate the fact that you're bringing that to my attention.
It's already been brought to your attention.
And I will address that.
It was already
Okay.
brought.
So, I have, as a mother and grandmother, a hard time wrapping my head around what would have happened had the parent not called you about the razor blade situation. Because it's my understanding that's what happened.
Okay,
Is that incorrect?
I got a phone call.
Okay. So, what would have happened had that parent not contacted you and just felt defeated from the way the principal handled it and kids got hurt?
More.
I guess that's
Kids
my
got
concern.
I'm not sure hypothetically how to answer that.
And I understand that. And that's okay. But just so you know that that's a concern of mine.
Okay.
Because
Thank you for bringing
I
that to me.
really don't think that that's very professional that a parent calls with a concern that's so important.
It's serious.
And I'm sorry that you may not find this as serious as I do, but I think children handing out razor blades to other children, I feel very, 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 very concerned about.
My first priority is student safety.
As well as it should be.
That's,
I mean, as well as it should be.
yeah,
And
that's-
I think
that's my first priority.
with, I don't know. I don't know.
So, again, Casey, as a parent, as a community member, I want to be able to help to alleviate some of your concerns going forward, okay? And I don't know that today we've accomplished that in full, but what I want to be able to do is to, I took some notes of your concern. I'd like to reflect on your concerns and see what it is that I can do to help to facilitate a better communication pathway so that you feel comfortable expressing and getting the answers resolved. And I want you to think, very, I want you to think very carefully about what is it that I can do to help you going forward. I understand that you have a lot of concerns and that these have been concerns for a long time. I want to make sure that we can resolve some of those concerns and move forward to get them resolved so that you feel comfortable and so that your children can.
I'm never going to feel comfortable as long as my children are masked. Never.
Well, that's
I'm
not something
sorry.
he can do right now.
No,
I
and
am sorry.
but that's, I mean, if I don't get anywheres with some of these answers and trying to understand
Yeah.
why,
Listen, I just had a conversation.
I'm going to homeschool. I can't
Yeah.
do this to my kids. I can't. They hadn't done it. My 6-year-old has to play on the playground with a mask on now after I kept him out for a year just because I want him to get an education. It's uncalled for.
Well, I just talked with an old colleague of mine, and one of the challenges that we've had, particularly in this role, is that I'll give you an example. We have new guidance that came out about end of the year events, proms, commencement ceremonies, graduations, and things like that. We've been told it's been updated 3 times in 3 weeks.
Mhm.
So you get information, and it's only as good as.
Mhm.
the
And I
next
said
bit of
that's the most
information
frustrating
and
thing
next
about
bit
all of this
And
is
it's
that
So-
and you guys have to do the
Yeah.
same thing, just like before
Yeah.
with the soft opening, the
We had a
meeting.
superintendent who he put out an email today that he had clipped an article out of the paper on what's today, Thursday. He clipped an article out on Tuesday, and he didn't get a chance to send it to the superintendents to say, hey, listen, I found this article to be real helpful. Well, he sent it out this morning at 8:30, and the guidance had been updated yesterday.
Mhm.
So by the time he got around to setting it up, the information that he had sent out, which was just 2 days ago, was already had already changed. So.
and I understand
and
that.
these are things that
How can you guys not come together and say, listen, we've got to do something about this. We need sound advice. We need solid.
we have
What's next? Vaccine force?
Well, that is not from my seat. Okay, that's a parent decision. And
Absolutely, 110%.
that is not for me to decide. What I will tell you is that we 92 superintendents from 4 different regions: Hamilton, Fulton, Montgomery, Questar, Capital Region, and Washington County BOCES. A total of 92 superintendents from the 4 different regions, north and east, signed on to a letter to our legislatures and to our Department of Health and to the New York State Education Department, asking for reasonable and responsible guidance to plan for the reopening of school. My goal is to get every child back in school in AC, full day, all day next year. And some of the barriers that we have are around transportation, and are around food service, and are around what they call cohorting of students, right? Keeping them in smaller groups.
Have you talked to any other schools that are already doing that
What are we doing? What?
full time?
Well, we're doing it here at the Harry Hogue.
High school too. I'm speaking.
There's not many.
There's not, but there are some. So have you
Yeah.
tried to?
Yes.
So you don't think that Cherry Valley Richmond is doing okay?
I don't know. Are they?
They've been full on from day one.
That's great.
Well, they're
I
not
guess,
far from
I
here.
guess that's my question. Have you reached out and said, geez, how'd you guys do it?
Because I did. I
We-
called them.
We have a lot of thoughtful conversations.
Right.
They've had way more community involvement.
And transportation was one of their
It was-
issues.
it was,
And they had, all the parents came through and opted to help them and bring their kids to and from school.
Just to have them in school all
You're-
day,
you're-
every day.
You're absolutely right. And every county health department has to, weigh in and make some decisions as well. So we're doing the best that we can. We really are.
But I guess that's where Casey's saying the community needs to, there needs to be more communication with the community. Listen, you people want this, then we need a little help here. So we can all come together as one and get what's best for the children.
100%. I agree with you. I agree with you.
So my son's in 5 days a week at the high school.
Yeah.
How many weeks are we into the 10 week, the last 10 weeks? What are we on, week
That's probably
Three? Four?
maybe? Yeah.
3 or 4 or something like that?
Yeah. It's got to be approaching the midterm.
I got an email, I believe it was yesterday, from a guidance counselor. And
I apologize. I have someone coming in at 2 o'clock. Too.
it is asking that he stay home on Friday for virtual Friday, because they had a meeting as a whole, the 8th grade teachers, and they made a list of students that were all caught up that I guess potentially didn't need to be in on Friday. And my student is one of them, but he has a project that he's working on. I'm not even sure when it's due, it didn't say.
Okay.
So he can still work on that project. That counts for 2 grades for social studies and I believe ELA.
Probably, yeah. Yeah. We look into that.
So I was a little bit confused as to why I changed attendance, but now I'm going to be asked to keep him home. Because if he's got a project to work on and that's all he's got to work on, what better day than a virtual Friday when his other 2, I mean, it's a group project from what I understand.
Okay.
So how is he supposed to get together with his group members if they're all home?
Yeah.
Or how is he supposed to work on it without them if they're not there for the virtual Friday and he is?
Yeah.
I don't want to send him on on the virtual Friday and him be the only one of the group that's there and can't do anything anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just not very, I don't know. I was confusing. I mean, I have him set up to go in 5 days a week, and next thing I know, I'm getting an email asking to keep him home.
Not that that's a problem.
It's
but
not a problem.
It's just confusing.
Especially when they tell me he doesn't have any catch-up work, but he's got a project. I was just confused.
Did you ever? She had asked what the capacity for both the elementary and the high school were. Did you ever find that out?
Hard question to answer.
Hard question to answer.
Yeah. I mean, our gym has a capacity. Each of our classrooms have.
I guess a
certain
teaching
capacities.
capacity.
I guess
What
it
is a
would be-
teaching
it would be,
capacity?
Cafeteria has a certain capacity. Are we talking in a general sense?
Whole
or
sense.
During COVID with the social distancing?
No, generally. How many can you hold? Because you're only allowed to hold half of that capacity right now. And if they up that capacity, do we have enough room to get everybody in 5 days a week without co-herding them?
Yeah, well, the half capacity is not applicable to the schools. The schools can reduce to 3 feet in classrooms, providing everyone is wearing a face cover.
Right, that just started, right?
Recently, last month.
That started, probably about a month and a half ago now.
Yeah, that's not right.
Actually, you know what? The CDC adopted it, and that's another challenge that we have is that when the CDC, the national government, adopts something, then each individual state has to adopt it, then each county has to adopt it. So what happens in Montgomery County and what happens in Fulton County could be two different interpretations of the guidance that comes down from the state, and that's generally some of the additional confusion is that we have so many different counties within the state that are interpreting the guidance
Right.
in very, very different ways.
So, because it's so unclear.
it's listen,
Mm-hmm.
if I understand one thing, and I hope that I completely empathize with your frustration. I deal with it
As
every
well
day.
as I empathize with teachers and
No doubt.
restaurant owners,
It's
and
a challenge.
it's a challenge through it all.
Yeah, no, it is.
I mean, I can't imagine being a parent in these times, to be honest. I don't know what I would have done. So my heart goes out to parents and teachers and a lot of people,
Well,
because it's challenging for them all.
And who doesn't want their child to have a structured education? We all do. And that's why my child's back in kindergarten right now.
Yeah.
But I am not going to forfeit his freedoms
Sure.
for him to have a structured education.
Face covering
Well,
bothers you.
Well, it's just really
It's awful.
nonsense. I mean, this is what they're doing all
He
day.
chews
They're
on
doing
it half the
this,
day.
they're
It comes
doing
home,
that.
it's got a
Right.
ring around it. He's
I mean,
chewing on it. I mean, it's not doing any good.
Well,
And I know that's a catch-22. Some people interpret it differently. I get it. I do.
We have an obligation to adhere to the guidance.
I-
And the guidance
Listen, I
says
work
that
for Target Distribution Center. I know.
Any aerobic activity, gyms, it's not a social distance of 6 feet, it's 12 feet, right? So your aerobic activities, your common spaces, all of those things we have, if you played a musical instrument, it would have to be 12 feet. Performances, singing, music, choir, things like that.
Oh.
But you could very simply sit there and say, if you have the social distance at 12 feet because you're in the choir, how come you could do this in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
And you could find a contradiction. There's the challenge that we have is that we all see those contradictions, and we're all frustrated by them as well. But unfortunately, in this kind of position, we have to find the middle to manage the group, right? So what's good for does a group there's an expression out there.
What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
No, that's not the one. That's a good one. No, that's not the one I was thinking about. The good for the many outweighs the good of the few. Right?
I'm concerned about this vaccine. I feel like they're going to push it on our kids. I feel like they're going to push the schools to push it on our kids.
Well,
They're bribing people with everything under the sun.
you know what I heard today, Casey, and you'll appreciate this. This is not. I'm not a baseball fan. I'm certainly not a Yankee fan. But Governor Cuomo opened up New York Mets and New York and Yankee
Of course he
Stadium
did.
For vaccines.
to full capacity if you're vaccinated,
Of course.
and they are giving free
Tickets.
vaccines and tickets if you get vaccinated.
How silly is that?
Well,
That's
they've-
propaganda at its best.
They've hit a wall on the vaccines, and they know it. Now there are, they're moving to, I know Massachusetts had 4 major vaccine sites, and they have spread them out into, I think, 52 different vaccine sites
Right.
that are more rural and in communities. And they're setting up smaller, more targeted vaccine sites where in populated areas, so that is not an inconvenience they're making it a lot easier. Now,
Right.
is it gonna be required? I don't know that it is. I think it still has to
Well,
be a
I
personal choice.
think what
They're trying
personally, I think it's going to be if airlines don't require a vaccination, then they're not going to get funding. If schools don't require vaccinations, they're not going to get funding.
And then what do we do?
Well, I don't know about that. I wouldn't.
And I'm not sure neither, but
Yeah, I wouldn't be
How
hypothetical.
how
about
can
that.
you say that? Because it was hypothetical about the testing.
Listen, I can't say that. If I say
my brother
it's
got
gonna be wrong,
vaccinated,
Yeah.
and he still had to get a negative test to get on a flight.
There's no doubt in my mind.
So how
It's all
crazy.
live. It's all live studies. Now they want to test the people that got vaccinated to see how many of them are asymptomatic. I've been shamed for the last year because I don't wear a mask, and now we've got people that are vaccinated that are walking around asymptomatic and spreading it more than I ever would have. I ain't never even had it.
There's so much that is
Right.
misunderstood.
Right.
And people still have their own,
Right.
personal choice.
And as everybody should. And I wish they stood up for it a little bit more.
Casey, before you leave, okay, my door is always open to you.
And it always has been, and I do
It
appreciate
is
that.
always open to you, okay? And if you have
Sometimes it's a
questions,
struggle.
Comments, concerns, listen, it's not always easy, but if you
I don't
are
expect it
frustrated
to be
about
easy.
something, please don't hesitate to call or come up. I would spend as much time as I need to.
And I support her because
Thank you
she
for
is
coming.
trying to learn and understand, and educating yourself on things is, you're never too old, and you're never,
Especially
it's
when
just-
97% of the people around you don't want anything to do with it because they know they're not going to get anywhere.
Here is, I will make you a promise that anytime that you want to talk with me, I will make myself available. And you make me a promise that that doesn't go onto the internet.
I can't promise you anything
You're
because
not gonna. Why? You're gonna put the audio on the internet?
I can't say that I may not share it with a parent that
But
asks
that's
me.
not putting it on the internet. There's a difference.
Well, that wouldn't be fair.
I mean, I can't promise you that because if a parent asks me how this meeting went, because a lot of parents know that I was having this meeting.
Why don't you ask him, why don't you bring him? Why don't you have him come?
Because the last time that happened to me, it got kiboshed.
Oh, yeah.
I have no desire to ask anybody anymore to come with me. I mean, you made a complete spectacle of that. People were talking about it for months. I came with the crazy lady. Really?
I didn't make a spectacle of that. Holy shit.
No, not you personally, but word got around
Oh, did it? Oh, jeez.
that I came to the meeting with the crazy
Are you from the
lady.
area?
From this area?
Yeah.
I'm in Niskayuna County area.
Mm-hmm.
My wife teaches down at South County.
And how do the schools operate down there? Better or worse?
No, she has elementary is in every day.
Mm-hmm.
She is a middle school teacher, and she sees her kids 2 days out of a 6-day rotation.
Wow.
That's similar to Canada Harry's
Mhm.
way they're
2
doing it.
days out of a 6-day rotation. She said it's insane. She's a special education teacher, so now she has some students that are coming in 4 days out of a 6-day rotation. Not enough.
Right.
And every school district's a little different. I talked
Right.
to another guy who's over in Rensselaer County, and they're struggling with the same thing, right? We get all of our elementary students in, and then the middle and high school levels, you have these hybrid models that are inconsistent.
Right.
And
I think it would be wonderful too if we could start something. I don't know if it can be done with the juniors, but definitely the seniors, especially now that they're starting to, with the way that things have been going for the last year, they've gotten jobs and things like Miss Larrabee said at the last meeting. If we could start a program, I mean, that could potentially help us with a few less students in the building if they're only coming in for one class and then leaving because their credits are met and then they go to work or whatever they do. That's how it used to be when I was in school. If you were meeting your credit requirements,
My kids worked while they were in school. So
you
they
were able
left
to
every
get out
afternoon.
and go to work.
The big question is, and again, from a growth mindset, okay? Education really hasn't changed that much from when I grew up. You know, you go to school, you get on a bus, you get on a bus, you go to school, you spend the day, you get on a bus, you go home, you repeat 5 days, and if you don't fit into that box, then school doesn't really work for you. This experience has really helped us to kind of learn and grow. There's new technologies, there's new resources, and there's new avenues. This model has, for some students really been a lifesaver because they learn better in a more remote, individualized, self-paced.
I do agree. For some children, it does work.
It is, as educators, it really opens our eyes to look at our whole entire system and say, how can we use the last year as an opportunity to learn and grow to make our system of education
Right.
more available for more students as opposed to them having to fit into
A
the
box,
box
right.
that we
I
have
agree.
provided them with, right? Now, it's kind of, it's kind of hard to manage all that when you're kind of like in the middle of it.
Right.
So my thought is that as we begin to navigate out of it, new ideas, new thoughts, new experiences, thoughts, concerns, community, parents' experiences, those kinds of things will all be considered as we look at our model and how we can make sure that it's meeting more the needs of the maximum number of students. So
Right. I just think
wish I had every answer for you, Casey.
for growth,
I'm sure
for,
you do.
For growth for teenagers, it's
I
important.
want to be able to spend time with you.
Yeah, well, maybe we could work together. See that? I think it's very
Excuse me,
important that they have the interaction with each other.
I know it's frustrating. I really do.
How does your bus driving position work?
What's that?
Would you allow somebody to drive bus with a shield? I see you have an open position.
Are you certified?
I am.
Are you?
I'm only not working because the school I was working for would not allow me to wear a shield.
Only a mask.
Food for thought.
Here's the thing, Casey. That is not a district decision. I'm pretty sure that is a Department of Transportation regulation.
No, because
I'll have to check. I'm gonna go back and check.
the school wouldn't let her work, but the bus garage let her work with just the shield.
Yeah,
I'm
my
gonna
bus-
go back, I'm gonna go back and ask, but to drive a bus, I'm reasonably sure, now it's just going back to the guidance from last year, okay? And I will ask.
I saw somebody yesterday with a shield on a bus.
There was an issue with the glare, or the shield and a glare. But there are always medical conditions and things like that.
I have an exemption. I have that. I mean, there was a reason I was wearing the shield. It wasn't just to be defiant. Little Falls Fonda.
No kidding.
But the bus garage okayed her shield,
They bought them for me.
and when the school seen it, they refused it.
They pulled me.
I am.
2 weeks in.
I am almost sure that there was specific guidance against shields for drivers because of the potential for glare and visibility. I'm 99% sure that was, it was a conversation, because there was a lot of conversations.
Oh, I'm sure there was.
I'm sure.
One of the most highly regulated conversations was about the buses and DOT and the specific regulations that they have. I
Right.
can ask. I can ask.
Hmm.
But I'm pretty sure that was a directive from the DOT, not from.
Right, right.
Well, I was told by my bus garage that it was a district decision. They could make the choice to pull me from the seat. So if the bus garage didn't have something else for me in another district that would accept it, I couldn't drive. And I had just went through all my training, got my
You
license
went through the whole thing too. It takes
last
a
March.
while.
I went through it. No, don't. Not when they're trying to get a driver in the seat. The only thing that held me back was the restrictions at DMV with the appointments.
Have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you and have a good day.
Now these kids don't have that.
Well, they do.
Oh, that one don't.
The one drawn don't. Jordan.
What's that?
Yep.